FFTB, nice run through 130R, driver getting out of the way of him there, into the Casio triangle, ride the curbs nicely, not too much to make the car wash out wide, a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner there, but FFTB will cross the line. It is a 127. I would expect to see a bit of an improvement there. I'll be definitely expecting to see people in the 126s and possibly even a few drivers in the 125s during this session. But that said, Arian and Sheehan so far have not been able to compete with that. We do have a Ferrari, and that is Oliver Broadford, third in the championship at the moment. And where is he going to be when he crosses the line? First man into the 126s is currently P1, but you would expect a few drivers to come and upset that, and Marco could be one of them, and indeed he is. It's a 126.8 for Marco, so the times come tumbling down. Here is Koji, crosses the line, 127.5 for him. Now we have a McLaren coming through. Is that optic? Yes, it is, 141. So nothing particularly strong for him. And our championship leader is coming to cross the line now, 126.5 for Bjarne Olsen, 3/10 faster than anybody else so far, and already the championship leader laying down a big marker for drivers to compete with over the course of this session. The Ferraris are about to set some lap times. Let's have a look at those. It's going to be Oliver Broadford followed by Bjarne Olsen. Let's take a look at these. Broadford currently 1/10 up, McLaren getting out of the way of him, which is awesome to see, and Broadford takes a nice run through the Casio triangle. Now he's got to be nice and tight to the inside as he makes his way across the line as a 126.8, and he will not improve his position. Bjarne Olsen 2/10 up. It's a 126.2, but it was an invalid lap. So Bjarne showing what he's capable of, but he will not be setting that as an official lap time. And I think he might be wishing he had, because Marco just after them has crossed the line with a 126.4. First man into the 126.4s. It puts him on provisional pole. And speaking of people with Marco in their name, John Marco has just crossed the line as well with a 126.6 to go P3. He's over a second up on his fastest time. We could possibly be in the 126s here for Reg Meister. Depends on the run through the Casio triangle. It looked decent. Rode a lot of the curb on the exit of the corner. Tight to the inside as he comes to the line. 127, almost a 126. P9 for Reg Meister. Let's have a look. Who else have we got? Tom going P14 there. Next is going to be the Haas of rank up with me. Moving up to P13. Then we have Dusty setting his final lap of the session. But he's off the road, so no worries with him. Then Broadford, 126.5. Still can't improve from P3. Razza, 127.3. Then Marco with a 126.2. That could be the time to beat. Arian goes P5 with a 126.7, but I think we know who we're looking out for as Sheehan crosses the line with a 126.8. Next is going to be FFTB, 126.6. Bjarne Olsen crosses the line, 126.25, and he beats out Marco by 0.03 of a second, and you would have to imagine that that is going to be your pole time. It is so close between those two, but I think it is just going to go the way of Bjarne Olsen, unless this man, John Marco, can say anything about it. Crosses the line, 126.7, is not going to improve on his best time so far. Optic crosses the line to improve up to P8, and that is going to be the end of your session. What an absolute blockbuster finish that was there. Super close between the top two drivers in our championship, but ultimately it does go the way of Bjarne Olsen. Right then, here we are on the grid, getting ready to get underway for the Japanese Grand Prix as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and it looks like Bjarne Olsen has had a strong getaway there. Perhaps a bit of a slow getaway, though, from Marco in the Haas, and already he's fallen down not only to P2, P3, but P4, and Bjarne leads the race from Oliver Broadford. Is currently a Ferrari 1-2 with John Marco in P3. Marco falling down, the Haas into P4, Arian in P5, Jam up into P6, and Reg up into P7. It looks like D-Mob has had a bit of a rough start. He is down into P10, and FFTB has fallen all the way to P17. It's been a horrible start for him, but he is on the back of this train, and he will be able to make his way through as Koji now falls down the order a little bit into P14. Rank up with me up a few places up into P11 as well. FFTB already getting past HRT Martin. Bjarne Olsen leading the way as Marco now has got back past John Marco, but there is already a 1 second gap almost between Broadford and Marco, which Marco needs to close down nice and quickly if he wants to stay in that DRS range. Otherwise, he is going to come under a lot of pressure from the drivers behind once we get to that DRS zone at the end of lap 2, start of lap 3, because remember, the DRS won't get activated until they cross the line at the end of this lap. so we won't see any DRS until right towards the end of lap 2. Bjarne Olsen leading his teammate only by a few tenths of a second. Marco bringing himself back into touch, perhaps deploying a bit of battery there to make sure he could stay with Oliver Broadford as well. And it is going to be the Faroese driver, the championship leader, who is going to be on the front of the pack at the end of the first lap. So Bjarne Olsen still leading, just a couple of tenths to his teammate behind. It's super hard to follow with the dirty air, especially through that tight Casio triangle, but only 3 tenths is the gap. DRS all the way down the main straight, and here goes Oliver Broadford. It's going to be a very trivial move in the end, and with the DRS, Oliver Broadford is comfortably ahead, making his way into the first couple of corners. A fantastic swap for the lead there between the two Ferraris. His FFTB looks like he's had an issue there, which is going to take him off the back of the pack, as Dusty now makes the overtake on Koji up into P12. Meanwhile, it looks like Bjarne has got back ahead of Oliver Broadford. Oliver Broadford now only 3 tenths of a second off the back of Bjarne Olsen. The gap is going to be less than 4 tenths of a second as he makes his way through the exit of turn 18 onto the main straight with the DRS. Is he going to be close enough to think about going for a move into turn 1? You just have to have so much overspeed to even think about it, because it is a fast right-hander that you take pretty much entirely flat out through the first couple of corners until you get to turn 2, which is the heavy braking zone. But that first corner being flat out means you just have to have so much overspeed on the car in front of you if you want to make that overtake. This race could very easily be won on strategy, because remember, Bjarne Olsen and Oliver Broadford can't box at the same time, so the preferential strategy is going to go to whichever of these two drivers is in front at the time that the pit window opens, which is going to be probably only in about 3 or 4 laps, you would say. So yeah, whoever's in front come the pit stop phase, they are going to be the driver who gets the preferential strategy, as Bjarne Olsen defends to the inside and Oliver Broadford makes his way back up into P1. Is Bjarne going to be close enough to go for a move on Oliver Broadford here into lap number 10? 3 tenths is the gap here. Is he going to look up the inside for a move? It looks like he is, with the DRS, manages to get past, and once again there will be a swap for the lead between these two Ferraris. Will we see anybody coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap? Oliver Broadford coming around the final corner, stays out. It looks like Marco went in there. So Marco has blinked early. He is going to try and steal P1 on strategy here, and there is not a lot that the drivers can do to react to this. The only other driver who's come in this early is Sheehan. Will this be a good stop for Marco? Yes, it will. Comes out into the pit lane as Sheehan goes into his box, and Marco, will this now be the right call for him to get himself into P1? I would expect Broadford to come in now, and Bjarne will have to benefit from that clean air. So Broadford comes in, and Bjarne inherits the race lead once again, but he is, of course, going to have to box next lap. John Marco also coming in. Bjarne now makes his way through 130R, coming into the Casio triangle. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, as his teammate came in on the previous lap, but Bjarne stays out. Okay. Interesting decision from Bjarne. Clearly he thinks that he can make up that time later on in the race if he stays out. Will he be coming in at the end of this lap? Yes, he will. So Bjarne now coming into the pit lane, and I would expect the majority of the hard compound, also the medium compound runners now to come in as well. But Optic actually opts to stay out. Rank Up, will he be coming in? Yes, he will. So Optic, the only driver to start on the medium compound tyres, who is still out on those medium compound tyres. Perhaps goal hanging for a safety car here, you would imagine. I can't see any other reason why he would be staying out this long on a set of medium compound tyres. So Jam inherits the lead of the race at the moment, and really what he has to do is he has to try and use Optic, who is going to be slower on those medium compound tyres. He has to use Optic to try and break away from the likes of Dusty and Razza. Dusty getting past Razza there through Dunlop by the looks of things, and Dusty now up into P3. So will Dusty or Jam be able to leverage the fact that they are starting on those hard compound tyres and then make a bit of a run back through the field on the medium compound tyres? Bjarne has come out behind John Marco, so if you say that this is your net top 4, which based on the delta it currently is, Marco is currently your race leader. He's got a 1.7 second advantage over Broadford, and then John Marco is currently running in net P3 and Bjarne running in net P4, with Sheehan actually running in net P5. But he's got slightly older tyres than the other drivers on the field. It is going to be interesting to see what the strategy plays out like for these two drivers. Will either of them come into the lane at the end of this lap? Yes. So Jam comes in. Dusty has no choice really but to stay out. But Jam might have just been taken out of this race because of a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Super disappointing for the Alpine driver, but I think any chance of fighting through the field on those mediums is going to be negated by that penalty. Meanwhile, I think Bjarne Olsen has just got through on John Marco there, so he's now up into what will be net P3 once Razza and Dusty come in, I would imagine, at the end of this lap. And Marco now is only 7 seconds behind Razza. He's still 10 seconds behind Dusty though, so a safety car on this lap could change absolutely everything. Broadford is just starting to get into that position where he might just be close enough to think about going for a move. Dusty coming into the lane, he is going to be jumping out of the way of these cars. We'll have to wait and see what his progress is like on the, I imagine, medium compound tyres that he is boxing on to the end of this race. And will Broadford shape up to go for a move on Marco here? Marco defending through the middle. He's going to try and hold it on round the outside through turn 2, but he just can't quite do it. And Broadford will take the lead of this race on lap 20. The Ferrari driver now needs to try and break away from Marco. If he wants this win, he needs to break away from Marco before Bjarne can get past him, because otherwise Bjarne is going to be all over the back of his teammate. And don't get it wrong just for a second. Just because he worked with his teammate earlier on in this race does not mean that he doesn't have the drive to absolutely destroy him on track when it comes to the result at the checkered flag. We've seen that Broadford does like to get himself a 3-second penalty. We've seen them at that in quite a few races so far. Maybe the driver that struggles to keep it within the white lines the most out of our top 3 drivers here today. So a podium could still be on for Dusty Bassoon, but Broadford is doing a good job of holding on as Bjarne is going to challenge Marco down into the Casio triangle. Let's not take our eyes off of this. They're going wheel to wheel, and Bjarne is going to overtake Marco through turn 18 on to the start of lap number 26. And Bjarne is not out of this race just yet, but I think him holding him up perhaps just stopped Bjarne from having a good run through there. And they're going to go wheel to wheel through the first couple of corners, and Marco is off the road, and that is going to allow Bjarne to go back through. And Oliver Broadford is loving this because that is going to allow him to start streaking away from the 2 drivers behind them. So Bjarne and Marco going wheel to wheel are 2 championship rivals. The championship leader now in P2 and the second place man in the championship currently running in P3. Meanwhile, Oliver Broadford is going to try and now break away 1 second from Bjarne Olsen. If he can do it, then this win will be all but secured for the man who so far has yet to win a race in this season of Streamers & Co. It is Broadford leading the race into the final lap. Bjarne Olsen is only a few tenths behind him. He won't be close enough to overtake with DRS down the main straight, but who knows what Bjarne could go for here. Of course, he has the tyre advantage. Dusty's made his way up into P4 on track now. Will he be able to hunt down Marco for that final spot on the podium? He has a 9-lap tyre advantage over Marco. Yes, he's on the mediums and Marco is on the hards, but that gap is super close between those two now. Only a matter of tenths. Could Dusty perhaps go for a move on Marco? Could Bjarne go for a move on Broadford? We will have to wait and see. Only a few corners left here to go at the Suzuka circuit now. Dusty could be on for a podium here, and I think he's who I want to focus on, because I think we could see him attempt to move on Marco into that Casio triangle right at the end of the lap to get himself that final step on the podium. The gap is only 3 tenths. We could even see it come earlier, to be perfectly honest. Broadford and Bjarne, I think the gap is just slightly too big between those two for Bjarne to really close him down, but it could be Dusty Bassoon who was making his way into the top 3 here right at the end of this race. Only a few tenths separate him now. What does he have in the battery to attack Marco on this final lap? Does Marco have enough in the battery just to defend from him here as they make their way through 130R? I don't think he's quite going to be close enough, but will he be able to beat him to the line? It is going to be Broadford that is going to come through the final corner first, followed by Bjarne and Marco. But will Dusty be able to get Marco right on the line? No, he won't. It is going to be Broadford who takes the Japanese Grand Prix victory here today, and it is going to be Olsen who finishes in P2. Marco takes the final step on the podium in P3, but look how close Dusty was to getting back past him in the end there. less than a tenth of a second. John Marco will inherit P5 after Jaram's penalty. Then it'll be Sheehan in P6, Reg in P7, Optic, a decent drive from him to recover to P8. Jam, with the penalty applied, will fall all the way down to P9, and Razza will be the final driver in the top 10. So congratulations to Broadford, our driver of the day, well deserved after his first victory of the season, and maybe now just getting himself back into that championship fight. I just want to say once again a big thank you to all the support today. Today has been absolutely fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better league to be the lead commentator in, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.